Hello, my good people. Throughout my life, video games have always been there for me, to cheer me up when I'm down, to help build my friendships with others, and to help me procrastinate when I was busy with homework. However, I think we all had that video game series that kept us coming back for more, and had us getting excited every time there was a new installment announced. So today I'm counting down my personal favorite video game franchises, the game series which I'm always happy to engage with and meet up with characters I've grown attached to. But first I should probably lay out some rules for what a franchise is in video game terms. I'll say in order for it to qualify for this list, there has to be at least 5 mainline games, and I have to like most of them. Also, no spin-off series, i.e. Donkey Kong, which is a spin-off of Mario. And last but certainly not least, they have to have originated as a video game first. Believe it or not, Pokemon did not originate as a video game series. Also, I know my previous list made it seem like underrated movies was coming up next, but trust me, I'll get to that list eventually. Anyways, on to the list! Pac-Man, a series of games which is one of the most iconic, yet one of the most neglected out there. I mean, a lot of people don't even know about Pac-Man's updated design. Technically, his newer appearance was always intended, since it appears on the game cabinet. Yeah, a lot of gamers think of him as a circle with nothing but a mouth. However, while the arcade games Pac-Man and Mrs. Pac-Man are classics and fun in their own way, it's games like the Pac-Man World Trilogy and so forth which really add to the franchise and helped secure it a spot on this list. I mean, the Pac-Man World series alone made it 100% clear I'm adding it to the list. They, especially the second one, are truly platforming wonders, and help expand the Pac-Man world and add personality to the Pac-Man. He's a happy-go-lucky nice guy with a bit of a snarky attitude. Anyways, there's a ton of great Pac-Man games that expand and play with the basic formula, like Battle Royale, Miss Pac-Man Maze, and Championship, or go off and do something completely different like the World Series or Pack and Roll, although they all keep a consistent style and tone, as even the ones that branch far off from the arcade games still have Pac-Man eating fruit and dots, as well as having ghosts be the main enemy. Although there are definitely some mediocre installments, the Pac-Man games are a good time and overall charming. It's kind of weird how it's both really iconic and really unknown at the same time. I mean, it's been around longer than Mario, yet the only games to really hit it big are the arcade ones, and maybe World 2. Though Mario is definitely the better franchise, I'll get to that later. Fun fact, Pac-Man was the first video game to have a cartoon based off of it. I haven't seen any of the episodes. It looks like it could be decent though, but one thing creeps me out. Apparently, there's a Christmas episode where Santa makes an appearance, which implies Pac-World is a place on Earth. Is this where we go when we die? Pac-Man, stop eating my great-grandparents! The Legend of Zelda. You know, I'll be honest, I haven't played that many games in this series, but what I have played I consider amazing. A series of high fantasy adventures where we help Link go on quests and become a hero. What stands out about this game is its setting, in which we enter a magical world and often experience a beautiful art style with some dark moments that don't feel forced, and some memorable characters. There's a few incarnations of Link, but I like them all. Granted, there are some characters that piss me off like Navi and that damn owl, and Tingle, but I'm happy to join Link on his adventures almost every time. Also, I definitely prefer the 3D games over the 2D overhead ones. I'm also a fan of the world building and the often interesting backstory given to the locations and characters, as well as having a good mix of lighthearted as well as often dark and even legit creepy at times. Anyone who played Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess as a kid will tell you some parts scared them, but it never feels forced, and they have a good balance of tone. It's always a joy to battle creatures with your sword and find rubies. Spyro the Dragon, a game series set in a fantastical world with dragons, trolls, fairies, talking animals, and other fantasy creatures, with a whimsical tone and lovable characters. The franchise is mostly platforming based, most of them are collectathons, and you have to go through some varied locations including swamps, futuristic worlds, beaches, crystal worlds, and even underwater cities, as you glide across, torch enemies, and collect gems, which makes sense since according to legends, dragons often hoarded gems, although running around and collecting and burning sounds like it could get stale after a while. The interesting worlds, the different mission objectives often given to you by NPCs, as well as mini-games and different playable characters who play differently than Spyro himself help keep the games fresh throughout. My favorite characters include the attitude-filled Spyro, of course, Banaka, Agent 9, Hunter, Ripto, and Sergeant James Bird. He's a flying British Army penguin, nuff said. Something worth noting is that the games did experiment with different gameplay styles, having Spyro ride on the back of creatures, pilot vehicles, and the already mentioned friends. Though the original trilogy was amazing, both the original and remastered, some of the games that came after are pretty good to decent, like the Game Boy games, Dawn of the Dragon from the rebooted trilogy, and who could forget, not that one. But seriously, I'd have to say A Hero's Tale is probably the best Spyro game post-Insomniac area. It has a great art style, the new playable characters are fun to control, and is an overall joy. However, Spyro's been a mostly dead series, although there is rumors that Microsoft, who now owns Spyro, apparently registered new trademarks for him, and they did remaster the original games, though only time will tell if things will turn out for the best for our favorite purple fire-breathing reptile. Overall, this is a fun and whimsical game series that's overall, dare I say it, magical. Metroid. Let me say that I am new to this series, although it's been around for a long time. Only recently did I start playing it. But I gotta say, Metroid is awesome. From the 2D running and gunning, to the first person, and even, pinball? Anyways, the series has you play as a bounty hunter trying to keep the galaxy safe from nasty creatures. And while it might look mindless, as you will be blasting a lot of aliens, there's a lot of skill, exploration, and even some puzzle solving involved. The games are atmospheric and sometimes eerie, and some of the creatures you face off against are pretty freaky looking, but taking them down is always satisfying. As you might have been able to tell, I consider myself a guy who likes science fiction, as this list will show. So this was right up my alley. I'm still new to the series, but I like what I've played so far, and Samus is a great heroine. Fun fact, it wasn't until the third game her identity was revealed, and people were surprised to find out that you were playing as a woman. And these games mix space adventures with some horror elements at times, which makes sense since the Alien movies were a big inspiration. Honestly, it's pretty surprising that even though Nintendo themselves didn't develop most of the games, this is still technically a Nintendo franchise since it's hella different from their other franchises. But it's awesome. Kirby. Although these games might look childish, you are not a man until you've played Kirby. But in all seriousness, the Kirby franchise is a great series that mostly follows a simple formula. You are what you eat. Yeah, you suck up enemies and gain their power. And there's some basic yet fun ones to use like sword or fire, but then we get some creative ones like snow, yo-yo, water, and UFO. I think my favorite one might be Ninja, as not only can you climb walls and throw ninja stars, but in some games, Kirby can walk on water. These abilities help each installment feel fresh, since each one has at least one new power, though I do hope one day they bring back the mixing two abilities to make a new one from Kirby 64. But even the games that break away from the formula are still great fun, like Kirby Mass Attack, which has you controlling up to 10 Kirbys, Kirby Air Ride, which is mostly a racing game, and Kirby Epic Yarn, which ditches the sucking up in favor of yarn morphing, which are good enough to be on par with the main type of games. Now Kirby might look like a cute ball of pinkness, but he's actually a badass warrior, who, while happy-go-lucky and childlike, has the power to take down literal otherworldly creatures with the powers of a god. Speaking of which, despite the game's cutesy style, some of these villains are pretty dark and intimidating, like Sub-Zero. He's a frickin' demon, but these lovable characters, especially King Dedede, who might be my favorite, keep the games cute and fun. Besides, slaughtering enemies is way more fun when everything's cute. Now think about this for a minute. It's pretty easy to describe most video game characters to people who haven't played these games before. Who is Pac-Man, a yellow circle with arms and legs? Who is Mario, an Italian guy with a big nose and a mustache? Who is Sonic, an anthropomorphic hedgehog who is blue and runs fast? Now who is Rayman? He's a guy with floaty body parts and he can fly with his hair. His face kind of looks like a duck. Screw it, Rayman. The Limbless Wonder has a good amount of games under his belt, and his adventures are truly something to behold. For starters, the games truly feel like a magical world that is both beautiful and humorous at the same time. Its creative universe can range from fantastical to classic cartoon-like and sometimes downright creepy, and a large cast of, both literally and figuratively, colorful characters, and some platforming that brings you on crazy adventures. Besides the standard run and jump gameplay, you also get to ride on the back of creatures, fight enemies with charged attacks and power-ups, experience some mini-games thrown in for good measures, and there's even a few underwater levels that are actually fun. I know most people consider the second one the best. Don't get me wrong, Rayman 2, aka The Great Escape, was awesome, but the third one upped the humor, felt more cinematic, despite a goofier tone, with its epic battles and intense moments, and overall more adventurous feel. I also definitely like Rayman's redesign. It fits his laid-back personality more, and looks more respectable and cooler. I guess I should mention, while I do like Rayman Origins and Legends, as they are both fun 2D games with a paint-like aesthetic, and are even more enjoyable when you have more than one player, I kinda prefer his collected hero personality shown in Rayman 2 and 3 as well as Arena, over his wacky and almost insane personality in the 2D games. Heck, this characterization of him works well with the Rabbids, since he contrasted their insane and dumb antics. Okay, I'll address the elephant in the room. The Rabbids. They were originally just another Rayman antagonist, albeit instead of fighting them, he was forced to play a variety of minigames with them. But the Rabbids became so popular that they eventually overshadowed Rayman himself and became their own series. I'll be honest, I really like the Rabbids. Yeah, their minigame collections are fun. Rabbids Go Home was a great, well, it's kind of hard to categorize, video game genre-wise, but it's still an awesome game. And they still make me laugh almost as much as they did when I was 9. I'd take them over the Minions any day. But I can understand the frustration at them for stealing the franchise for a while. But like I said, I'm not talking about spin-off series, and I really should pay respect to the guy who started it all. Unfortunately, the series creator, Mitchell Ansel, has since left the gaming industry, and Ubisoft isn't really paying much attention to this franchise in recent years, or any other of their series for that matter. They've been focusing on milking Assassin's Creed. In fact, the first game, which came out in 1995, had its 25th anniversary a few years back, and what did Ubisoft do to celebrate? Nothing! Geez, I really hope Rayman makes his return someday, preferably in 3D, but I'm losing hope. You don't know what true suffering is unless you're a Rayman fan. Crash Bandicoot. Now let me say, this mutant marsupial has really made a name for himself with his more linear adventures throughout the late 90s to early 2010s. Although I'm not sure if Crash is truly back. So far only one new game this decade that isn't a remake. But like Dr. Seuss said, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. The Crash series is a franchise that has tons of exciting and action-packed adventures. Most of the games are platforming based, and most of them are very linear. Though these games are fast-paced, varied in level design, including 3D, side-scrolling, and even the occasional animal and vehicle riding stages. Though I don't really get why Crash drowns in normal gameplay, but has entire levels where he swims underwater. Maybe it's the flippers? Anyways, even when going more open-leveled like Twinsanity, the game still kept the trademarks with its crates, the gain lives by eating enough fruit, and some good old chase moments, and all while keeping the charm and humor. Also, I gotta say, the game series transitioned pretty well to handheld consoles, as the GBA games are also pretty fun and accurate to the main games. The characters in the Crash universe are great as well. We have a pretty varied group of characters who make me laugh and are fun to be around. I do love the goofy and heroic dumb Crash, and his smarter yet also silly sister, and the wise and powerful Aku Aku. But where the writing truly shines is with its villains. These baddies are actually really unique and interesting characters, like the main antagonist Dr. Neo Cortex, who is both funny and weirdly sympathetic. Also, his gameplay differs than Crash. There's been a few times in the series where he had to team up with his enemy. There's also other villains like Pine Stripe, Trophy, N-Gen, N-Brio, and Ripperoo, just to name a few. All good characters, and their boss battles are great as well. But I think as of the most recent installment, Dingodile, the half dingo, half crocodile tough guy with a thick Australian accent, is my favorite of the characters. I like his story with how, after giving up on villainy, he opens up an eating establishment, but due to the rival company and a series of events, eventually joins forces with his former enemies and helps them throughout different timelines. He's also hilarious and badass, and his vacuum-themed suck and blow gameplay was a highlight for me. Even the side games like the racing games or Crash Bash, a party game, are pretty good and add their own spin on the Mario Kart and party formula. Anyways, Crash is a fun and humorous franchise that's definitely worth your time. Ratchet & Clank, a franchise that is set in a galaxy far, far away, but it doesn't have the Force or Luke Skywalker, though it does have robots, spaceships, and a great sense of humor. Now, what's special about Ratchet & Clank is the creativity of the planets you platform and battle through, including futuristic cities and bizarre alien worlds, its variety of cool weapons and gadgets, and large cast of fun and hilarious characters. Now, the weapons in these games are anything but basic, since we have stuff like the Supinator, the Groovatron, the Razor Claw, the Suck Cannon, the Lava Gun, the Rhino, and a lot more, each with different effects and are fully upgradable. Now, weapons aren't the only thing, as you'll be doing a lot of platforming and you'll often need tools to help you traverse through these worlds, such as the Swing Shot, which helps you swing across areas, the Hydro Displacer for removing and transporting water, and the Magna Boots for climbing up walls, just to name a few. Heck, I even like Clank's gameplay of commanding smaller bots to do stuff for you and help you across the levels. As I already said, the characters are great and truly add life to these games, from the minor characters who leave a big impact and help build the world, i.e. the Plumber and Helga, who were so popular they used them more than originally intended, to the villains we love to hate, or in some cases love despite their evil deeds like Nefarious, and of course our main characters, from the idiotic yet charming Quark to our main duo Ratchet and Clank. These two work well off each other and I buy that they're close friends, especially after the first game where they didn't get along at first, but by the end they seem inseparable. Also, the humor is awesome since it's a nice blend of Saturday morning cartoon humor with some satire of commercialization and big companies thrown in. There's even some mild innuendo that totally goes over your head as a kid. Even some of the titles are innuendos like Going Commando. Also, one more thing, I'll be honest, this franchise is the main reason I started buying PlayStation consoles to begin with. Technically, Sony didn't really make these games, but it's still exclusive to their consoles. Sonic the Hedgehog. You didn't think I'd forget everyone's favorite talking hedgehog, did you? Ah yes, the speedy blue hedgehog speeded his way into the gaming scene and our hearts in 1991 and has been going mostly strong ever since. Although speed is a gimmick of the franchise, and while going really fast can be cool, and trying to get a good time on each level, the main hook of the series is big adventures and crazy set pieces. Each of the mainline games have interesting locations, like what other game do you know that has a tropical resort in space? And exciting moments like boarding down a highway or escaping from a giant killer whale, but of course the platforming, combined with a good sense of speed and even timing for homing in on targets, both enemy robots and objects to help you progress, as well as switching up the gameplay styles with different characters who play differently than Sonic himself, truly make the franchise special. Also, some of the stories for these games are good enough to be movie material, like Sonic's Unleashed's big epic story and legit heartwarming moments. Sonic and Chip's friendship is really well done. Sonic Adventures 2's story from both hero and villain side, with a great character arc for Shadow, and even Sonic Colors' more cartoonish yet still occasionally triumphant cutscenes. Even the earlier games like Sonic 3 and Knuckles had a surprisingly decent story for a 16-bit game. Of course, the classic games and Sonic Mania are still great since the level designs are fun and you will be satisfied getting a good score on a level or collecting all the Chaos Emerald. Another thing that deserves a lot of credit is its large cast of memorable and lovable characters. From the tough and hard-headed Knuckles, to the gadgeteer genius Tails, to the crazy fangirl Amy, and so much more. Of course, there's Sonic himself, the adventure-loving and sometimes impatient hedgehog who loves making quips but at the same time knows when to take things seriously. He's considered one of the best video game characters for a reason. I'll admit the series did have a bit of a dark age where there were a lot of mediocre to bad installments, but thankfully it has improved and gone mostly back on track. Also, one more thing, I've been talking about the mainline series, But there are also some good side games like Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, a kart racer that rivals Mario Kart, and Sonic Battle, a fighting game that's actually pretty cool. Before we get to number 1, I'd like to name some honorable mentions. Mega Man, a collection of side-scrolling run-and-gun games set in the future, where you take on the role of a robotic boy trying to save the day from Dr. Wily. These games are pretty fun and challenging, but I don't ever think I would consider it one of my favorites. Maybe it's because it never fully transitioned well into 3D. Maybe it's because most of the voice acting is poor. Maybe it's because later games in the series took themselves too seriously, specifically the X games. But the classic games are still a ton of fun. Tomb Raider. These games are good in their own way, but I feel like a majority of them didn't age so well. I don't mean graphics-wise. Though Laura is always a cool character, which is too bad because I wanted at least one more mature franchise on this list, so I wouldn't be seen as a blithering man-baby. But alas, the most adult series on my list is the Bounty Hunter vs. the Alien one. Speaking of aliens, Destroy All Humans, a great game series that takes cues from 50s horror movies that puts you in the shoes of an alien invader harvesting DNA. With sandbox-styled missions, a good sense of humor, and a great alien duo as our protagonists. Though I'm not sure if it counts as a franchise yet, since as of now there's only 5 games, and one of them is a remake. They add new stuff to it, but it still mostly follows the same mission structure and follows the same story, so it's debatable if that counts as a new game. This could be seen as kind of a cliched choice, but I'd be kidding myself if this truly wonderful series wasn't number 1. It's Super Mario! And how could it not be? A study showed at one point that this Italian gentleman with a fancy mustache was more popular than Mickey Mouse. Out of all the video game series out there, Super Mario has the most consistent quality and variety of them all. There was never a dark age for the Mario series or a bad hiatus. Mario has been releasing games on a good basis, and most of them are amazing. I mean, the mainline adventure games are good enough, like the classic first time in 3D Mario 64, the tropical-themed Mario Sunshine where you use your robotic partner to use water for many reasons, the new Super Mario Bros. Throwback to the classic era with gameplay that plays like the old school games, the Galaxy games where Mario travels from planet to planet, and Mario Odyssey in which you can take control of different characters around the environment by possessing them with your hat. But what really pushes Mario to number 1 is all the other games in this series that accompany the mainline ones. Mario has the most variety of any game series I know, and they perfect almost every genre. The Mario Kart games are addictive racing games with tons of unique tracks, the sports games that can appeal to those who don't care about those sports. Case in point, I'm not really big on soccer or tennis, though I will play tennis occasionally. But the Mario Strikers games are straight up amazing, and Mario Power Tennis is very good, especially if you have more than one player. I do say that the power-ups, the special abilities, and the winning animations do add personality to these games, making them feel more unique than other sports games. The Mario Party games, which up to 4 players can participate in a collection of fun mini-games and compete or cooperate for the best score. But who could forget the RPG games? Bowser's Inside Story, Paper Mario, and Partners in Time, just to name a few, are great turn-based RPGs with level-up systems and stats, as well as puzzle solving during these adventures. And you can even gain extra hits on enemies during defense, which is kind of rare for the RPG genre. They also flesh out the world and characters more than the mainline games, and take you to places like the inside of Bowser or Luigi's Dream World that wouldn't be featured in the platforming games. Even the games starring other characters like WarioWare, which mostly focuses on mini-games, and the Luigi's Mansions games, where Luigi captures ghosts across haunted mansions and hotels. Nintendo obviously took influence from Ghostbusters. Let me say, Luigi is a much better Ghostbuster than any of the ones in the 2016 version. Creativity and charm is what these games really run on. These worlds and character designs are distinctive and hard to mistake for another game series. Sure, stuff like Crash and Sonic definitely have distinctive art styles for its characters, but here, the entire universe is unmistakable for another series for the most part. Even those who haven't played the series much will have a favorite character, like Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Wario, Daisy, Bowser, Toad, just to name a few, and they're all interesting and fun characters in their own way, that can range from funny, cool, or even straight up adorable. Heck, one of them, Donkey Kong, was popular enough to get his own franchise. though he still pops in the Mario games from time to time. Thank you for being there throughout my childhood, my teenhood, and adulthood, and for bringing me masterpieces of gaming into the scene. You the man, Mario. You the man. And that was my top 10 video game franchises. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.